All right, it's Sunday, and there's so many things I want to discuss, but I'm going to go back to last week, I think, when we put out one of the videos. We mentioned that the Trump administration is considering putting on fees on Chinese built container ships that come to our country, okay? And the funny part is that no one thinks this is a good idea, except for the Trump administration. This is from this guy, Colin Grabo. He's at the Cato Institute. I don't know. I've been following Cato Institute for about 30, 40 years. I would say they're probably one of the most conservative, business-orientated institutes in the world, period. End of story. But they say that it is a deeply flawed report that they want to charge between $500,000 and $1 million fees every time a Chinese ship comes to port. Now listen, you can read this, and by the way, I'll post it at the bottom of the video, but we had 57,000 visits, and if only 30% of the ships we would say are Chinese, it would cost Americans $11 billion, okay? So what they're saying here is you got to think about how this actually happened. When a ship comes to America with containers on it, they can stop at one, but mostly two or three or even four ports. So every time they hit, they would have to pay between $500,000 and $1.5 million. So the Cato Institute figured it out at $750, okay? They said, we'll go in the middle there, we'll go to low end, it's still $11 billion. Now here's another problem. China accounted for over 50% of global shipbuilding output in 2023. It was 52%. And now has over 70% of the orders for 2024. And then to top it off, we can't even build the ships, right? So we're saying don't use Chinese ships, even though it costs us 4.4 times more money to build the ship than the Chinese, okay? So we want people to spend 4.4 times more for the ship and have to wait 5 years where the Chinese are building them in basically like a year and a half. This is another opinion piece, and they go through all the numbers on the fees and everything. And you have to read it yourself. The only thing I'll say in the Cato Institutes, I mentioned the Jones Act. Anybody who's followed me on this channel realizes that I've been saying since the beginning that the Jones Act is probably the worst law ever passed by the United States. And we need to repeal this law, and we really need to think about what we're doing. So what does this mean to us? Well, I'm going to say in this case, what does it mean to me? This is what is bothering me. Everything we're doing is we ban it, we tariff it, we put a fee on it. I have not heard one thing on what we're going to do that's positive. I mean, when you look at the CHIPS Act and the Infrastructure Act, which I believe will be historic, I've said this many times. So the Trump administration has suspended all the money that's been allocated through those two acts. And you know why? Okay? I'll tell you why. Because they're insisting that anybody who is hired through those acts has to be non-unionized workers. So in other words, they want to rewrite the contract saying you have to be non-unionized worker if the U.S. government is going to give you money for the CHIPS Act or for the Infrastructure Act. So in other words, they want all the jobs to come back to America, but they don't want Americans to be paid a fair wage. I don't get it. Why aren't we doing things? I mean, what are we afraid of? Are we afraid of China? Are we afraid of these people? I'm not. We got a lot going for us. We have our issues, but we have a lot going for us. So why don't we accentuate the positive instead of poking everybody in the eye and banning and tariffing? I don't get it. We have issues. We want to be better, but You don't get better by beating up other people. You get better by making ourselves better. So, that's my rant for the day. What do you think? Like and follow. Certainly tell me in the comments what you think.